Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the head of a Ugandan Muslim sect amongst the dozens of defendants on trial over a wave of murders of Islamic clerics. Also, in the midst of an economic crisis and after a hike in petrol was brought in, more people in Nigeria are seeing the appeal of black market fuel siphoned off from pipelines and refined by thieves. And as the number of refugees globally surpasses the 60 million mark, on World Refugee Day, we take a look at some of the challenges faced by those in Niger. Well, first we turn to Uganda, where the High Court in Kampala on Monday heard the case of 32 suspects accused over a wave of killings of leading Muslim clerics in the last 2 years. Though many victims were from the Tabliq sect of Islam, their leader, Yunus Kamoga, is one of the defendants. Others are allegedly former fighters from the ADF militia that operate in Democratic Republic of Congo. The case has been adjourned for a month after the prosecution asked for more time to protect witnesses, one of whom was reportedly castrated after receiving death threats. Well, Michael O'Hagan was in court and tells us more about the complex case.
This is a very complicated case. There are 32 defendants, and it comes as a culmination of a history of factionalism and schisms going back to the 19th century that is a part of the Muslim community here in Uganda. A clear motive has not been established so far, although we are yet to hear the evidence. However, there's ideological differences between the sects and also more earthly concerns about control of property, land, and valuable trading premises in the centre of Old Kampala, an area dominated by Muslims and mosques.
So some of the accused are actually saying that they're being set up and that the state's using the case to exaggerate the threat the country faces from extremism. What would Kampala have to gain from that?
Well, there are two audiences that the state is looking to here. One is domestic, in the context of a crackdown on opposition and the state wishing to be seen as having a firm hand. It could be useful to have an enemy within that the state can present as a credible threat and as a reason why it needs to use what some would call repressive measures domestically. There's also an international audience. The government, headed by President Museveni, is a close ally, or has until recently been a close ally of the United States. And part of that is because of its action against Islamic militants. By tying this Tabliq sect closely to Islamic militants, particularly the Allied Democratic Front, now based in Eastern Congo, the government can leverage international funding for the Ugandan army. And people from this Tabliq sect is sometimes viewed as an incubator from which Islamic militants graduate to organizations like Al-Qaeda. And that has happened in 1998 when two former Tabliqs became part of Al-Qaeda and took part in embassy bombings in East Africa.
Michael O'Hagan there for us. Well, on Monday, 5 Kenyan police officers were killed in an ambush by Somali al-Shabaab extremists. They were attacked whilst escorting a passenger bus in the northeastern border region of Mandera. The vehicle was reportedly set alight. Al-Shabaab's threatened to keep up raids on Kenyan targets unless Nairobi withdraws troops from an AU force battling militants in Somalia. In Nigeria's Niger Delta, crime rings have been raking in millions of euros by refining and selling on crude stolen from pipelines. A recent fuel price hikes made black market offerings all the more tempting.
These are busy times for the Civil Defence Corps, whose mandate is to protect state-owned infrastructure and to prevent oil theft.
You are talking about that oil badge. We've charged it to court. Yes, I told the legal advisor about it.
The commander and her officers here in River State spend much of their time shutting down illegal refineries. But the people financing these refineries are often hard to find.
They are not poor. We won't call them poor people. You understand? I can tell you that if not that we've sealed this place up and stationed some of my operatives to guard this place, they have made several attempts to come back to start their business again.
This huge disused factory complex was the site of an illegal refinery until it was burned to the ground in a sting operation by the Civil Defence Corps. Millions of euros exchanged hands here on a monthly basis. Arrests have ramped up since President Muhammadu Buhari declared zero tolerance for oil theft earlier this year. Most of the prisoners being held here are on remand and were allegedly caught refining illegal products, but they represent small fry while the big fish remain at large.
We're Niger Delta. We're supposed to benefit from the oil. If we benefit, government will benefit, everybody will benefit. Outside country will benefit. It's a mineral resource.
Officers conduct raids on illegal refineries on an almost daily basis. But no sooner is one destroyed than another one pops up.
Now, World Refugee Day fell on Monday, and at over 65 million, the number of people displaced worldwide is at an all-time high. A look now at some of the challenges faced by those living in camps in Niger.
In this camp in Difa, there are both refugees from Nigeria and internally displaced people from Niger. All have fled the violence wrought by Boko Haram. On the 3rd of June, 50,000 people left the town of Boso after a violent attack by the jihadist group. They settled in this camp.
We left our town and walked for 20 kilometers. 10 people died of thirst during the journey. If peace returns, we will go home. But now we're asking for help to find shelter here while we wait for peace.
In this region, close to Lake Chad, Boko Haram has carried out more than 30 attacks since the beginning of the year. One of the worst ones occurred earlier this month.
These people have been here since the 5th of June, but more people come every day. Our most urgent needs are clothing and food assistance. That's our priority for the moment.
Niger's government estimates that more than 240,000 people now live in camps in the Difa region.
Well, worldwide, as conflict and persecution cause more people than ever before to flee, it's often a struggle to find some place to resettle. Hoping to encourage more people to help, Malian singer Rokia Traore has dedicated her latest work to refugees living in Burkina Faso.
War, poverty, or natural disaster.
En 2014, encore 5,5 millions personnes ont fui leur maison, forcées de se réfugier dans des villes, des pays, loin de chez eux.
Whatever it is that sends refugees from their homes, Rokia Traore sings of what comes next. A perilous journey, without a safe place to land.
When I think about it, I get chills. That's why I want to talk about it. That way I can take some of the weight off because I think about it. I can't stop thinking about it. And I think about what kind of world we are creating.
Neso is Traore's 6th album and the title track. The name means home, and its inspiration comes from a visit that the artist made to a refugee camp for Malians in Burkina Faso. An armed conflict in the north of Mali has forced more than 200,000 people from their homes.
They aren't there by choice. That's really what people need to understand. If they find themselves here, it's because there's a problem. I've heard people say it's not our problem, but actually, as human beings, it is our problem.
C'est notre problème.
Traore's activism reaches beyond Mali's plight. The UN Refugee Agency has named her volunteer ambassador for West and Central Africa. According to the UN, the number of people displaced globally rose by 5.8 million through 2015. 1 out of every 113 people on the planet.
And that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Take care.